Hey guys, thanks for joining me. And if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hello, peoples. I'm going to do a really quick disassembly of this Miguron Velona. Velona. Very, very sexy, thin knife, but still a full-sized knife. I like it a lot. Do this in preparation for giving a review of this guy. This has 14C28N, less than 50 bucks, has a mill titanium clip. Absolutely awesome. You can probably guess that my review is also going to be awesome. Now, the way, I wouldn't disassemble this knife. It feels perfectly fine until later, but I'm just doing this for the review. I will say, though, that action feels great, and it does come down pretty nicely, but I feel like if I clean the bearings and grease it with my own grease, it'll be even snappier and even more drop shutty. So in a way, I kind of look forward to that. This is your standard sandwich construction. So unlike something like the Prado, which has where the liners are totally inlaid inside this G10. You can't see the liners at all, and they're all actually very skeletonized. These are skeletonized too, but it's just sandwich construction, which means, peel ply, liner, full back spacer, liner, peel ply. So this, without nesting the liners inside the material, it does save a little bit of money. But at the same time, you're getting a much nicer knife steel with the 14C28N than you are with the CGRB Prado, which is the proprietary stuff, the AR RPM9, which is kind of like almost a powder metallurgy version of D2 steel. Anyway, going into too much technical stuff. We're going to do a quick disassembly of this. So I'm going to go to warp speed, and then I'll show you the inside. And then I'll assemble it again and give you some final thoughts. All right, warp speed, engage. And we're back. There's lots of things about Miguron that I love. One of them is that all of these screws have nice big heads, deep insets with T8. No T6s even on the pocket clip. Very nice. This is, of course, a liner lock, and the engagement on this is about 50%. Very nice. Some people don't like 50% engagement. I don't mind it. I think it's okay. Got a back spacer overrun protector here. Back here, you got to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the disassembly. These bearings are plastic. They're not pressed metal. I don't mind that in a budget knife. They have a very nice locking or captured pivot here with their symbol on here. I like that a lot. And their pivot head is nice and big and round, and it sits inside of a collar here, which sometimes on different models of theirs, they color this a different color, like bronze or brass, which is pretty cool. But it makes it so that it's very nice to gives even pressure on the pivot, making just for a smoother detent and a smoother action, in my opinion. Here you can see the raceway started to work in. Very nice and thin. And it actually looks totally dry in here. So maybe that's why I was thinking that this could benefit from a little bit of TLC and a little bit of grease. I could have just used a long needle and something inexpensive like Hops number 9 and just tried to get some grease in there in the bearings. It probably would have been fine. But again, giving this a cleaning is fine. You know what happens with the grease after use is that the grease will attract dust, and that dust will get captured by the grease on purpose, and it'll just get gunked up after a little bit of time, and you'll want to clean that out anyway. Now, I don't see any grease on this at all. It's like I just took apart a knife, actually that Prado over there, which someone was like happy on a Friday and just squirted grease all over it. This the opposite happened here. This guy was working on his Migrons and just decided to skip the last 5 knives or something like that and not grease them at all. But whatever. On the disassembly line, disassembly line. It doesn't matter. I'm going to put some grease on this, and I bet this thing is going to sing. And you can see very nice machining, cutting down on the weight. on this skeletonized liner over here as well. You can see some grease here where they put grease between the scale material and the liner, which they will usually do to keep from, you know, some kind of water getting in there and rusting things. Oh, I will say, because this is covered in some kind of coating, yeah, don't have to worry about that too much. So it's almost like extra protection, really. I don't know if it's necessarily needed or not. It looks like there's just a little piece of extra metal from the milling process stuck in there, or I am going insane, which is also totally reasonable assumption. Huh. It looks like right in there, they were milling this out and the little extra piece of material hung down there and wasn't entirely removed, which is interesting. I've never seen anything like that. Some kind of flaw in the manufacturing. Did they use a water jet to cut these out, or a mechanical process? I'm not 100% sure, but there is just a little bit of material there. It's not connected. It is not affecting the how the lock works. It's just curious. It's not. It's only attached. That piece of metal is only attached on one side. Putting just a drop or two KPL knife pivot lube on the bearing pivot where the blade is going to be resting. I had all of my screws lined up in perfect order from pivot going out. I just get into a pattern. I used to have to be a little bit more careful, like until I got my pattern down. Sometimes I would forget, but I now use the same pattern when I disassemble a knife. All these tools, very cheap to get. Links down below. My Amazon links all help the channel. I obviously don't have to use them at all, but you know, if you want to support the channel, you can use that. I'm not sponsored by anyone. This is all my own money. So cool. So I'm going to put this together now. Now with a liner lock, you do want to be careful that you don't that you center the blade back up. So this might take some tinkering to get the blade put back in. I'm just going to use a dab of blue Loctite on the inside of this. Some people put their Loctite on the threads of the screw. I put mine on the inside of the nut. I don't think either way, one way is better than the other, but I like doing it that way because then the blue Loctite, if you slip with the screw, it's not going to get everywhere else after you've just cleaned the knife and everything. I also made sure when I put on that KPL knife pivot lube that I did not accidentally get that grease on the faces of the lock. You do not want to do that. The lock faces, when they get that grease on there, it'll attract dirt and grime, like I said, and it will make a sticky substance, which will then give you, in the game, what is called lock stick. You do not want lock stick. And like that. So here we are, and we're going to put this back together. What are my final thoughts about this knife? Constructed, again, typical. Oh no! Did you spot the mistake I just made? I forgot to put the pillar in the back for the knife to the travel stop. So now look, the knife is going back. That's what happens when you forget to put in this little stopper right there. Then you get a floppy knife. Don't do that. Don't be like me. I haven't done that in years. I don't know if I've ever done that. But yeah, so anyway, now I have to disassemble this knife, put it back together again. So 1 second. And we're back. So I went ahead and put that pillar back in, and I just paused it while I did that. Check out the action if I have it too tight, and if it's any smoother. Might be. So the centering, by the way, is perfect. Miguron are really good about constructing a knife in such a way that that it's very easy to center it. I've never had a problem centering a Miguron. I've had much more trouble with Civivi or CGRB. Miguron, they always seem to go together very nicely. Yeah, so the action's definitely better on that, and it's falling shut a lot easier. One little thing before, it was taking me 2 or 3, now it's going. And the other thing too is that this grease will work into all the nicks and crannies of the pivot, of the bearings, all that stuff, and the action will just get better and better. So the more that I flick it and play with it, it'll be good. But because it has Loctite in the pivot, I do kind of want to let it rest overnight and let that Loctite dry. So next is my review of this knife right here, which will be coming up as soon as I'm done recording this. But first, I'd like to ask you to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Comments really help. And if you want to win a knife or get a chance to win a knife every single month for $3 a month, follow the link down below for Patreon, support this content, and get entered to win a knife every single month. Thanks so much, guys, and I will see you next time on Sharp Ends. Bye-bye now.